This is Ken Segal. I'm a partner with LGA and head of its business advisory and investment banking services. I have the pleasure of interviewing my friend and colleague, Anthony Catalano, in our third of a three-part series on cyber issues. And Anthony's a principal national cyber lead, private equity and family office, again with RSM. How you doing today, Anthony?
Doing great, Ken. How are you doing today?
Ready to get scared straight again for our third section here. Our first part, we talked about understanding the basic cyber threat landscape, which was scary. The second part of our series was exploring the potential impacts of cyber attacks, which is even more scary. And hopefully this section 3 will provide at least some comfort that there are some plans in place that companies can take to at least lessen the blow of the when not if of cyber events happening. But first, and I love getting your war stories, Anthony, is first, the optimistic picture is how can a robust and aggressive cybersecurity strategy for a business help limit the impact of potential threats?
Yeah, Ken, I think, when you think about this, when you buy hurricane insurance, you're not buying insurance that a hurricane's not going to hit. You're buying insurance to keep the business running when the event does happen. But with that hurricane insurance, they're going to have some stipulations. And a robust cybersecurity program is that stipulation. It basically means that you are doing the bare minimum to make sure that an event that does happen is as minimally impactful as possible. The first thing you need to do is actually determine what the threats are, right? Are your threats, to the business downtime? Is it loss of intellectual property? And that's always the first step that we encourage organizations. So what are we actually protecting for you, right? What would keep you up at night? And once we understand that, then we can go ahead and build a program to keep that event from happening.
You bring up a really good analogy. So with the hurricane windows and shutters, it's an eventuality that a hurricane is going to happen. So all you're trying to do is to be able to hunker down and sustain it. So it's not appropriate or accurate for a company to say, I'm too small, I'm not of interest, it's not going to happen to me. We have to assume it will. So what are the bare minimum, the basic cybersecurity strategy should include? And I'd love to get some examples of that in your world of where not everyone needs a Lamborghini, but how do people start from the basics and work their way up?
Yeah. And I think I said in my first video, Ken, 80% of the way that we compromise organizations is through two avenues: bad passwords and social engineering attacks, right? So we know that most people use the password summer 2023 ! Right? And that is so common, it's scary, right? And I hope somebody's on this video today and they're like, oh, I got to go change my password.
I thought it was pets names with an exclamation point.
Exactly.
Okay.
Password 123. So, we have the ability to rapidly guess passwords. And it used to be, you would guess a password any number of times and you wouldn't get locked out. Then they said, okay, we'll make a system lockout. So if you guess the password wrong, it'll lock you out. So now we do a reverse brute force, right? We change our methods again and we actually try all the accounts in the organization with a password one time and then we cycle through so we don't hit that account lockout. So, security awareness training is really the number one thing that I would do. That is the most important element. Train your employees how to use passwords appropriately, how to protect the data appropriately, and how to avoid phishing scams, right? Those have evolved recently, especially in the healthcare space. It's no longer email phishing, it's phone phishing, where we're calling people and trying to get them to perform an action on our behalf. We're leveraging artificial intelligence to actually make that move more quickly and help us gain scale of efficiency so we can call 400 people in a day instead of just 2 or 3 people. So those two things, if you were to be able to really push those out in your organization, would have a massive impact for any organization of any size.
Essentially, if you look at the education and training about cyber threats, where maybe there was 100% likelihood of someone penetrating 5 years ago, does that 100% go down to what's your best guesstimate if companies are properly trained? Again, all it takes is one, but if you're minimizing it, what magnitude does the training have to help minimize at least the easy entries?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ken. And we actually track this. So I've been the virtual CISO for a lot of healthcare organizations and a lot of organizations in general. And we were noting around a trending around a 92 to 93% reduction in people clicking phishing emails by having consistent cyber education programs. And you shouldn't just punish people when they click on the links. You should incentivize people, right? So if somebody continues to pass, put a gift card out through a raffle to the organization. Hey, everybody's doing well. Here's $200 in gift cards. They'll get randomly assigned to users. I had a CFO push back on me. He said, why am I paying people to do their job? I said, would you rather give away $200 in free gift cards once a quarter? Would you rather pay a couple $1 million for a breach and be out of business? And he was like, that's a great point. We'll go ahead and buy those gift cards.
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. And at some point, you can spend too much because you're too paranoid about the risk. But how do you find that balance between relative to size of a company is one is enough as far as spending for protection?
Absolutely, Ken. The way that we like to do this is we like to calibrate the against organizations of similar size, complexity, and revenue. We know that a lot of great organizations out there do research. RSM keeps very close tabs on this. So what we do is we say, we'll take the revenue of the organization, and then we say their IT spend should generally be between 5 and 10% of that revenue, right? So that's a good indicator of how much you should be spending on technology. And then your cyber spend should be 7 to 10% of your IT spend, right? And that's a great benchmark for you to understand how much you should be spending on cyber. Now, if you have a deficient cybersecurity program, what you have to do is you have the surge cost. You have to implement a lot of things quickly. So that first year cost is likely going to be higher. We call it the surge cost. But once you get all the stuff in place, you have a maintenance cost, and that sits in that range that I discussed earlier.
So there's two real schools of thought. One is reactive and one is proactive. Could you kind of conclude with one of your favorite war stories of where it was perhaps better to be proactive, and by being proactive, help minimize the bite and sting versus the whistling past the graveyard concept we talked about in the last video?
Yeah, I would say almost every breach that I've been a part of since I started my career was the result of an organization being reactive to cybersecurity threats, right? And the ones that aren't breached are the ones that are proactive. So, a reactive cybersecurity program is far more expensive, right? Remember I said that surge cost, you're going to spend the money, right, one way or the other. So spending it on a consistent and sustainable program is obviously cheaper in the long run. And it also gives you visibility to say, look, if the business continues to grow, here's how much more we have to spend on cybersecurity. And that way you're not playing catch up later on. So it really helps, kind of level out the finances of the business. It gives you a level of confidence in your cyber program, so you don't have that massive breach event that could potentially put you out of business. And it really just makes good business sense.
So maybe an easy rule of thumb is that if you get an email that you think is fishy, pardon the pun, you should have a designated person or company that you can forward it to and say, hey, is this legit or not? And then those people can take the initiative of doing all staffs and saying, if you receive this, please don't open it. Because some of them, like we're trained to look at the URL and other things like that. But if you're on your phone or if you're rushed, anybody could potentially fall for those. I mean, is it as simple as that as part of the training is knowing how to identify and when to share it?
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Microsoft has a built-in feature. There's Mimecast where you can actually just flag it as potential spam. It goes to an administrator and they review it automatically, or the system does it in an automated fashion. Again, AI is helping us get a lot better with this, but that's a great suggestion. Start somewhere and be consistent with where you start, right? And then continue to evolve the cyber program based upon what you see as threats to the business.
We can have another 6-part series on how the bad guys are using AI, but hopefully, we've calmed everyone down with this 3 parts, and at least there's a path. And obviously, to the extent that there's any help that people need, Anthony's the best in the business, as is RSM. So we will share Anthony's contact information. We'd love to find a way to help protect you all from when the when happens. So appreciate your time as always, Anthony. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Ken. Pleasure speaking with you.
All right, bye now.